I especially want to acknowledge the effort here of three longtime Senate leaders on disabilities issues. Senator Harkin, who is here now, who chaired the HELP Committee and been such an extraordinary leader on this issue and on the ADA itself.
One of my greatest joys in the Senate has been my work over 30 years with Senators Dole and McCain, Senators Kennedy, Hatch, and many others on the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. The ADA stands for a simple proposition that disability is a natural part of the human experience, and that all people with disabilities have a right to make choices, pursue meaningful careers, participate fully in all aspects of society. Thanks to the ADA, our country is a more welcoming place, not just for people with a variety of disabilities, but for everyone. 22 years ago this month, President Bush gathered hundreds of Americans with disabilities on the White House lawn for the ADA signing ceremony. At that time, he noted, and listen to this quote. This is an exact quote from President Bush. "This historic act is the world's first comprehensive declaration of equality for people with disabilities. The first. Its passage has made the United States the international leader on this human rights issue." End quote. Well, thanks to the ADA and other U.S. laws, America has shown the rest of the world how to honor the basic human rights of children and adults with disabilities, how to integrate them into society, how to remove barriers to full participation in activities that most Americans take for granted. Our support for disability rights has inspired a global movement. Think about that. It has inspired a global movement that led the United Nations to adopt the CRPD. Our legal framework influenced the substance of the convention and is informing its implementation in 116 countries that I have, Senator Durbin, and also the European Union, who have signed and ratified the CRPD. I'm very grateful for the long history of leadership on both sides of the aisle. Senators Dole, Senator McCain, going way back even before the ADA. I want to acknowledge the leadership and support of Senators Barrasso and Durbin, Moran, Coons, and Udall, all of whom have publicly expressed their strong support for ratification of the CRPD. I'd also like to acknowledge the pro bono work of the Meyer Brown Law Firm and Carolyn Oselenik, who many of us remember was Senator Kennedy's chief aide when we passed the Americans with Disabilities Act back in 1990. By ratifying this convention, the United States will be reaffirming our commitment to our citizens with disabilities. As has been said a couple of times by senators on the dais, that Americans with disabilities, including disabled veterans, should be able to live and travel to study, work abroad with the same freedoms and access that they enjoy here in America. And as the state parties to the convention come together to grapple with the best ways to make progress and remove barriers, we should be at the table with them, helping them to learn from our experience. The administration has submitted reservations, understandings, and declarations that make clear that U.S. ratification will not require any changes in U.S. law and will have no fiscal impact. No fiscal impact. But my hope is that U.S. ratification will have a moral impact. My hope is that it will send a signal to the rest of the world that it's not okay to leave a baby with Down syndrome on the side of the road to die. It's not okay to warehouse adults with intellectual and psychiatric disabilities in institutions chained to the bars of a cell when their only crime is having a disability. That it's not okay to refuse to educate children because they are blind or deaf or use a wheelchair. That it's not okay to prevent disabled people from voting, getting married, owning property, having children. It's not okay to rebuild infrastructures in Iraq and Afghanistan and Haiti or other war-torn or disaster-stricken areas without improving the accessibility of the infrastructure at the same time. So I thank this committee for scheduling today's hearing. I commend you all for recognizing the long history of bipartisan support for disability rights in this country. I urge the committee to report favorably on the treaty and recommend that the Senate give its advice and consent to ratification prior to July the 26th of 2012, the 22nd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.